Welcome. This is Najma Minhas with GVS Dialogue. I'm joined with Moeed Pirzada. Thanks for joining me again today, Moeed.
Thanks for letting me in.
I noticed that you've actually discovered a new bookshop in DC.
We mean like the comment.
I saw a video that you just released on your latest English YouTube channel, Iconoclast with Moeed Pirzada, and there was a scene of you there, sitting there with books all around you. So, what's this bookshop? Thing you've got going?
The funny thing was this, that I actually found a comment from someone who said that, you have betrayed Said Book Bank in Islamabad and you found
You've
a new
betrayed
bookshop.
Pakistan by
You
discovering a new
betrayed it.
love.
It's actually not true. It's actually, well, this is unfair to say that I betrayed Said Book Bank. I was betrayed in a way. But anyway, I think this is also a misunderstanding. As you know that Barnes& and Noble has existed in our lives and my life much earlier. I first discovered Barnes& and Noble when I first arrived in New York. I think it was 1994. Yes, it was in 1993 or 94 93 probably, when I discovered Barnes& and Noble, and I have spent a lot of time in almost every Barnes& and Noble and also the Strand bookshop in Manhattan. And subsequently, when I was in Texas, I spent a lot of time in another large bookstore chain. That was the Borders,
Right.
The Border, unfortunately, doesn't exist anymore. I found that
And
because
even
of...
Barnes and Noble barely exists. I mean, they sell more toys than they sell books nowadays. So this
But
is a sad
but
situation in which the
yeah, this is
economy has
a
gone.
this is the sad situation for all bookstores. I used to have a lot of discussion with Mr. Ahmed Saeed. He was very kind every time because I spent a lot of time in Saeed Book Bank in Islamabad. So every time I would stop there for buying books, whenever Ahmed Saeed was there, the owner of the Saeed Book Bank, he would involve me for a coffee, tea, and will talk to me about the politics, and then inevitably we end up talking about the books. In fact, there's a very interesting, anecdote I think I must share. In 2011 or 12, I was in Delhi, in India, and I was staying in ITC Moria. There was some kind of television recording we had to do with one of the Indian television channels. And I went on a long walk, and there was a marketplace next to ITC Moria, not very far off from, on the Safdarjung Road or something. And I went into a bookstore, and there was a large bookstore, and but not very big. So, given the size of India, I asked the bookstore. I told him I'm from Islamabad, from Pakistan, and I said, what is the largest, bookstore in India? And he started telling me about some bookstores in, Mumbai or somewhere. But they said, साहब सबसे बड़ा bookstore जो है वो तो आपके पाकिस्तान में है, South Asia का. I said, what? What are you talking of? And he said, the largest bookstore in Pakistan is Said Book Bank. Sorry, in the whole of South Asia, in India,
Wow.
Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, the largest bookstore with the largest floor space and the largest number of the books and the largest sale is in
Wow.
Islamabad,
Wow.
Pakistan. And I was very surprised. And he said, आपको नहीं पता इस चीज का. So then
It's
I came back.
amazing because
It's
it's on that
amazing.
premium property in F7. And so God knows how long it's going to stay as a bookshop, to be
Yeah,
honest. Given the fact that
exactly.
Pakistanis love their DHAs and they love their housing societies. So God knows how long that's going to stay as a
That's
bookshop.
true. That's true, and that's ironical. So when I came back, I after several weeks, I came across Mr. Ahmed Saeed, and I told him this is what someone told me in Delhi. He was very pleased, but then he told me that it is his love of books and his passion, his commitment. His father loved the books. They used to have London Book Company probably in Peshawar, and then they moved to the Saeed Book Bank and all this. And he said this, the rental, the worth. Just the plot, the size of the plot on which the Said Book Bank exists in Jinnah Supermarket, Islamabad, F7. So he's not making as much profit and income from the sale of the books as is being offered to him just as a rental cost of the plot. So some banks approached him and they wanted to use that corner plot because if you walk down, and those people who are familiar with Islamabad, if you walk down the footpath after the Said Book Bank, you come across, I think, Habib Bank, and then there's another bank, and then there used to be a Standard Chartered branch. So there were 2 or 3 banks within the next 500 feet of that place.
Right.
So banks like those kind of plots, and he was offered greater rent than he's making from the upkeep and selling of the books. And he also told me that, Pakistani people, and all his sales are basically institutional sales to government, to libraries, to universities, to colleges, and he's also in the supply of the textbooks and so on. And then also the stationery items that sell, the copies and things like this. But he said books simply do not sell. For instance, he showed me, he would always open up his computer and would show me the sales figures of the books all over Pakistan. He used to have those figures. And he told me, and once showed me that William Dalrymple's book, The Anarchy, that was then selling like hotcakes. For instance, the Anarchy hardcover in India sold almost 100,000 copies in the first week
Wow.
for William Dalrymple. In the first week, hardcover, right? And now the irony is this, that the Anarchy probably sold in that time period less than 1,000 copies all over Pakistan. Now, this is, I mean, one might wonder that, of course, I mean, Anarchy was published in India, William Dalrymple lives in India. But that's not the point. People do not know, if anyone who has read the book Anarchy, that the main subject of the Anarchy is Muslim civilization of India. It mostly talks about the collapse of the Mughal Empire. Chapter after chapter is related to Siraj-ud-Dawla in Bengal, the East India Company. Then East India Companies, fight against the Mughal.
He has an amazing podcast. I don't know if you've come across it, but it's called The Empire, and it's with another lady, Anita. But it's an amazing podcast, worth listening to. It covers much more than India, actually. It covers I recently listened to it, and it had a whole section on Buddhism, Chinese civilization. So another thing that really, I mean, the world has moved on from literally reading books, right? So I mean, one thing you also pointed out in your short video was AI, and you condemned or you slightly criticized Fareed Zakaria that he hadn't discussed AI as a revolution. But e-commerce was a revolution. So Amazon was a revolution. And that's why we've seen the failure of so many physical bookshops in this way.
Yeah, I mean, still on this subject, Borders was a huge book chain stores across the United States, mostly in the south of the United States. Border collapsed, and the Borders problem and challenge was the same as the Said Book Bank. Now, Said Book Bank is a standalone large bookstore in Islamabad, and it's surviving because of the commitment and passion of Ahmed Said. Otherwise, financially, it's not making any sense for Ahmed Said to continue if he can make more on the rent and can invest the same money in doing something else, or probably be only in book supplying, for which you don't need a large, shelf book space, right? So his shelf book space is in fact a huge contribution and service to the people of Islamabad who come there, spend time, and look at the books. I mean, this kind of pleasure is seldom available in any other part of Pakistan, right? The border had the annual sales. I think the last was talks of $4 billion, which is a huge figure. But yet the debt was mounting, and the border was unable to move into. You see, when the Kindle came and the Amazon became the largest warehouse in terms of supply of the books across United States after 9/11. So none of the bookstores which had physical possession of the books could actually compete and supply so many books, which so Amazon can literally send you any book, being published in any part of the world in the next day. I mean, it's in the delivery. But then when the Kindle came, initially there were only a few 100,000, a few thousand books on Kindle. But now probably there are more than 1 million, 2 million, 3 million titles on Kindle alone. So this advent of technology is the disruption that actually destroyed not the reading of the books. In case of Pakistan, there's a double jeopardy because Pakistanis were reliant upon physical books, and because of the cultural change, educational change, political change, and whatever is happening in Pakistan. So Pakistanis are losing their contact with the books. There are many factors. And Pakistanis are never part of the electronic and digital books. But in the rest of the world, the digital book and the electronic book is thriving. The electronic reading is thriving. I mean, so now the hard copy of, for instance, the New York Times is not sold even 1 million copies on a day, right? Which is the largest and the most influential newspaper in the world, the most expensive team New York Times has. But at the same time, there are countless millions and millions, probably, 30 million, 40 million, or whatever people touch New York Times, or even more than that, every single day. The same for, The Economist, the print publication is going down. So my point is this, it is the medium that is being affected, not the content. The content is surviving. The medium is being affected by the disruption of technology. But in case of Pakistan, both are affected because Pakistanis never moved into the digital reading thing.
But did Pakistanis ever read in the first place?
I think the generation in my sense is this, that the Pakistani generations in 50s and 60s and 70s were more into the reading of the books, and subsequently also, you might not know it because you haven't spent any time in Pakistan, and
only 15 years, but okay, no, I haven't spent any time.
No, but in terms of the history of Pakistan, I found out from the professors of the universities till late 1960s, but I mean, this is a very old time period, Pakistan didn't have textbook boards. So in 70s, the Pakistani government started creating standardized one uniform textbook with Punjab textbook boards. Before this, the government, just like United States, in United States, if you go to college and university, there are no standard textbooks. So there is a curriculum by the university. Same in UK, the country you grew up. So there is a syllabus and a textbook. And then you can select any kind of textbook to read this. They can be suggested books. So in Pakistan till late 60s, till the Ayub Khan era, the books were not recommended and standardized. You had a syllabus, right? And you could find any kind of book. So the authors were writing books as per the syllabus. There's a lot of competition. Once you gave the standardized textbook and said, you have to remember this book, right? So the overall habit of wider reading started to suffer as well. So I think there are multiple reasons. And for instance, I mean, neighboring India has a huge, thriving book reading culture. I mean, just as I mentioned, another book which sold hugely across India, once again, which had huge reference to Muslim civilization, was Arundhati Ray's book, The Ministry of Utmost Happiness. And very few copies, probably 1,500, 2,000 copies were sold in Pakistan. And I'm sure that, hundreds and thousands of copies of...
that was about the Kashmir freedom fighter, right?
I mean, it was all the context in which the Pakistanis should have been very interested. And Dalrymple's book was all about, I think, yes, the Dalrymple book told me about the Marathas, the Maratha civilization, the Maratha power in the center of India, and how they were ultimately defeated by the East India Company, the Maratha Confederacy. And the Dalrymple's book for the first time made me respect the Maratha Confederacy and how intelligent they were, how influential they were, how wisely they were actually running their part of the India. But apart from the Maratha Confederacy, the old Dalrymple book is principally about an area of interest in which Pakistanis should have been very interested, but Pakistanis have never taken any interest into this. So, I mean, this is not a correct assumption that, I have...
Okay, so just before I take you away from books to politics.
In London, I was interested in Waterstones, right? Yeah, in UK, I spent a lot of time in Waterstones. So I think it's a very touchy subject is important for me.
You're very touchy about your bookshops, but just a last pitch for bookshops. Please go to your local bookshops and support them. Amazon is making huge amounts of money and it can do without your money. Okay, Moeed, politics. Okay, please, let's I want you to get your thoughts. There was an interesting video. There are a couple of things I want to get your thoughts on. A little bit about Pakistani politics, where we stand today, especially after the Cypher case. But just before we go to that, I want to show you a clip about what Hillary Clinton recently said. And just to get your quick thoughts on that as well. So just give me 1 second. I'm going to show you the clip.
Get over yourself. Those are the two choices.
Yeah, love that.
Right? And
good.
It's kind of like one is old and effective and compassionate, has a heart, and really cares about people. And one is old and has been charged with 91 felonies.
Yeah, okay.
So this clip is from the Jimmy Fallon show. It's called The Tonight Show. So with the host, Jimmy Fallon. And she talks about, as you've seen, she talks about Joe Biden being compassionate and having a heart. And the only thing that came to my mind is this woman living on another planet? This man is being called Genocide Joe for what is happening in Gaza and Israel right now. The uncommitted voters just yesterday in Wisconsin came out, and over 47,000 people who vote for the Democrat Party in the Democratic primaries said they were uncommitted in essence, right? So which world is she living on, and how does she think that Muslims, for example, perceive Joe Biden as being compassionate and having a heart?
First of all, I have to make an admission that Hillary Clinton has been a great mentor in my life. The joke in 2009 had been that, whether Hillary Clinton gave anything to Pakistan or not, because she granted me, a series of interviews,
Right.
And I think the first time I was really selected for a very important discussion was when Hillary Clinton and her team picked me up for an interaction with 6 Pakistani TV anchors that was conducted from within the US Embassy, and Patterson used to be the ambassador. And I got huge publicity. And subsequently, twice more, I interviewed her twice in Pakistan and one time so I have interviewed Hillary Clinton 4 times. In fact, the interesting thing was this, that in 2011, I think I was in State Department briefing room, And Hillary Clinton and Shah Mahmood Qureshi walked in for a joint press conference, and afterward it was opened up for, this was the famous press conference, press talk in which Hillary and Shah Mahmood Qureshi, who is now in Adiala jail, just imagine the irony of the Pakistani history. They just joined their
What
heads.
goes up must come down. It's the law of physics.
But Hillary and Shah Mahmood Qureshi joined their heads together, I mean, to show the bonhomie and relationship between US and Pakistan. So this is a very famous picture. I can actually send it to you, you can show it. So there was a question answer session that started, and I raised my hand. And when I got the opportunity, I said, Secretary Clinton, this is Moeed Pirzada from Dunia News, Pakistan. And you know what Secretary said? She said, Moeed, you don't need to introduce yourself. I know you very well. Now everyone, there was a very, serious place. So everybody, there were journalists from all over the world.
I'm thinking, who's this person from
just
Pakistan?
Turned back, tagadak. They said, who the hell is this guy? The Secretary Clinton says, I know you very well. So I have, of course, with this interest, I've been following her politics as well. She has been always a hardliner, Once, I think in 2022, there was a Russian delegation along with the media people that were visiting Islamabad, and Fawad Chaudhry took us for a dinner along with that Russian media team. They came to interview the then former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. And there were two Russian journalists, and we discussed about some things, and I told them about, Hillary Clinton and all that discussions, And then the Russian lady, the TV anchor person, who had interviewed Imran Khan. The Russians are far more educated than average American media persons, I realize, because I think they have a history of literature and whatever. And this woman said to me that Hillary Clinton is very inhuman, And then she mentioned to me an incident that when Muammar Gaddafi was killed, right? And this was reported to Hillary Clinton. She laughed and made fun of his death and said, oh, he's gone, good riddance or something like this. And I subsequently checked that video because I was amazed. I was intrigued. So I checked the video and I found out that was actually true. And I followed her politics, and she has been far less compassionate than Bill Clinton was. So in the duo of the Clinton presidency, it was the magic of the public connect of Bill Clinton, whom I also met once, fortunately, during the World Economic Summit, in which you and I both acted as consultants to Davos, when the only time the World Economic Forum was held in New York in 2002 after 9/11.
Right.
Bill Clinton came to speak in one of the sessions, and I was the room manager of that, place. So I saw him the way he came, and he grabbed everybody, including myself, right? He grabbed.
He was known for that, right? He's the great communicator.
So he hugged everybody, as if he knew everyone for the past 20 years of their life, So I could see that, he had that kind of, public, connect. So Hillary was always a very cold and.
So you got a hug from him as well.
I got a hug from, I was shocked. I got a hug from Bill Clinton, He grabbed everybody. So I thought that he knew everybody till he grabbed me with the same kind of warmth. And I knew that this is all political, This is nothing original about it. And maybe
He's definitely a great politician. But I mean, Hillary Clinton doesn't fall in those shoes, I think.
So the point is this, that Hillary was always the contrast. And I would remind you, there was this, what was that forum that used to invite us near Vienna? The Salzburg Forum, right? In the Salzburg Forum, we met the bureau chief for Europe, New York Times, just before the 2016 American presidential election. And a guy who was the head of the New York Times in Europe, based in London or Europe somewhere, he said he's very worried that Hillary is not going to win this election. And I said, why? I thought that Hillary was so special, magical, and whatever. He said Hillary has no compassion. Hillary has no connect with the people, whereas Trump is very popular. Trump connects with the people, with the common man, and Hillary has a intellectual arrogance and, an aura which disconnects. And
which she displayed in that clip, actually.
Exactly. Look at this.
She said to the voters, get over yourself, as if,
Look at the arrogance. Look at the
disdain that she
arrogance.
has.
Look at the arrogance
Exactly.
from the American
Yep.
voters. I mean, she
Yep.
rejects all whatever they want
Yep.
to know and feel. And, I mean, with one single, brush of her hand, she rejects the feeling in the American left in the Democratic Party on the Gaza issue, which has actually totally decimated, the support. I mean, there's a split inside the Democratic Party. So you
There's a
understand.
huge split. I mean, Biden has lost, the progressive left-wing voters. There's young voters, the Muslims, even so many blacks right now. He stands in a very precarious position vis-a-vis Trump. And so this is what shocked me when she said, get over yourself. And he's a compassionate and has a heart. And I thought to myself, at what point during this last 6 months has he shown that he has a heart? I mean, today, what's interesting is after the World Central Kitchen aid workers were bombed yesterday, he came out today and said, there was a statement that came out and said he was outraged, apparently, and his friend, the chef, he talked about this. And today he said that apparently in a call with Netanyahu, he has asked for an immediate ceasefire. Whether that will result in any kind of ceasefire, we've yet to see. But really, I mean, the American policy on what's happening in Israel and Gaza, I mean, what are your thoughts on what's going on right now?
I mean, first of all, one has to understand that Democrats and the President Biden are only fighting for their own survival at the moment because the Gaza situation has affected the backbenchers in the Democratic Party and the left of the center political support of the Democratic Party among the African Americans, among the Hispanics, and among the Arab Americans, among the Muslim voters, the Pakistani voters, and all the ideological left of the Democratic Party, to which Greg Kassar, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, and they all are, related to. So, and also, there were more than one analytical article in New York Times in the past several weeks that basically argued and analyzed that Netanyahu wants Biden to be defeated and decimated in the election because all the internal schism is within the rank and file of the Democratic Party. If there is a voice of conscience and reaction to what's happening in Gaza, that is not in the Republican support bank. It is not in it's not a problem for the Trump. So it is a problem for the Democrats. So he thinks that if Biden loses the election and Trump come into the presidency, Netanyahu thinks that his politics will be more secure inside Israel. So it is now a fight between these personalities. No one cares about the poor Palestinians or the humanity over here. Now, coming to the Clinton thing, another interesting theme when she waves her hand and says, look, there are only two guys. This is now the theme of the Democratic Party. The problem for the Biden is that he was never elected as president for who he was. No one elected him. He only got a vote of rejection because in 2020 elections, people were so afraid of the Trump's presidency and the statements he had been making on the African American, on the Hispanic, on the immigrants, and Islamophobia, on the international trade against the Europeans and everything, that he was seen as the as a scare. He was the dangerous person. So it was the Trump rejection vote which got Biden into the White House. And Biden and Democrats, the clip in which you show of the Hillary Clinton, are playing the same trick once again, that, look, you have no real choice because you have someone as bad as Trump. Now, Trump also gave an interview to an Israeli publication last week. It's probably last 10 days. And he said very clearly and very bluntly that, look, Israel cannot be running away. Israel cannot continue with this war anymore. You have to stop this war. This is working against you. So Netanyahu's calculation.
But there's a controversy over what he meant by stop this war. He basically meant, I think, the suggestion is he meant get over with it, be fast, kill as many as you can.
So yeah, this is one of the meaning. But even if the Trump comes into the presidency, Netanyahu's future is very uncertain. He's trying to damage Biden's future, thinking that if Biden is destroyed, Netanyahu will be safe. Netanyahu will not be safe in any way. Whatever happens, Palestinians have paid the price, whatever price they had to pay, but Netanyahu is not safe. Well, this is actually a very sad story, but this is it. It's a very cruel situation.
Coming to Pakistani politics, I mean, this Cypher case has been thrown out of the court almost.
It's almost.
The Tosha Khana case has been thrown out. Now is left the Iddat and the Nikah case, I assume. But I mean, do you see Imran Khan coming out anytime soon?
You see, first of all, the Tosha Khana sentence was suspended. The conviction is still there. The cipher case is almost demolished. In criminal law, the essential thing is that you make a pyramid. You have to have a structure of the case. And the tip of the pyramid, like the Egyptian pyramid, the tip of the pyramid is the conclusion and the argument of a case. So Imran Khan's brilliant lawyer, Barrister Salman Safdar, and his teams have poked so many holes into the whole structure of the cipher case that for all practical purposes, the cipher case is now dead. Now, having said this, there are other cases against Imran Khan. We hear that an old case of Cherry and White will probably be heard again after the Eid al-Fitr break. Imran Khan is not going to come out of the prison on the strength of the legal arguments or by winning the cases, because everyone who matters and thinks in Pakistan with both his cerebral hemispheres, right and left cerebral hemispheres, knows this thing perfectly, that all the cases against Imran Khan are just rubbish, plain rubbish cases. These cases have no legal sense. These are stupid cases. These are all politically contrived cases. So if these are politically contrived cases, you can't have legal solutions out of these cases. So Imran Khan's team, by destroying these cases, is putting pressure on Pakistani establishment. And Pakistani establishment, to my understanding, also knows this thing, that these cases ultimately will collapse. Because whenever they will be brought under the lens of logic at the High Court level or Supreme Court level, it will become very difficult. And judiciary, when you look at the letters which the Islamabad High Court judges have written to Supreme Judicial Council, is under a lot of pressure. They feel very insulted. So they're trying to take a position. So if Islamabad High Court judges have taken a position, Peshawar High Court was already combative. There is a lot of murmur inside Supreme Court as well, in Lahore High Court as well. So establishment knows fully well that at some point they need a solution. So there has to be a political deal between Imran Khan and Pakistani establishment. But the deal is not really happening because what the establishment wants for Imran Khan is not giving to them. Otherwise, they would have found some sort of...
I just want to stop you there for a second. It's interesting you say this word deal. PTI supporters hate the word deal. And to me, I find it very ironic because, politics and politicking is all about deals, from Machiavelli to Chanakya. Since when has politics been anything except deals? So, I mean,
that's true. I understand what you're saying. I mean, I've been saying this myself as well. So what happens is this, that the word deal, because of the way the Urdu narrative has been shaped by Urdu newspapers and Urdu television, deal is a very dirty word. Deal means
so this
you
is
do
what
something.
I wanted to ask you.
Yeah. So,
why do Pakistanis think it's a dirty word?
Because the way the lexicon and the language has developed, deal means something dishonorable. Deal means corruption.
It's not strategy.
It's not strategy.
So because the deal is you conduct a strategy to reach an end point.
Yes, in the American language, they say, what is the deal? So every time something takes place, I mean, in the normal course of conversation in the business, say, what is the deal? Here is the deal. Look at the advertisement, you go to the shopkeepers, buy something, they say, here is the deal, what is the deal, right? So deal in English is not necessarily a very negative word. Just like the word mentality in English is not necessarily a very negative word, but in case of South Asian use of the language, mentality, mentality is a very negative word. When you say, in logo ki mentality, these people's mentality. In India and Pakistan, mentality is a very negative word. But in normal cross-Atlantic language, mentality is not as negative. Like the word propaganda. Before the Second World War and before 1930s, the word propaganda was a positive word. So the European ministries of information used to be calling themselves as Ministry of Information and Propaganda. So now, can anyone imagine calling a Ministry of Information? There are no ministries of information. But if there is an information department, they say this is the Department for Propaganda. They can't say Department for Propaganda.
Right.
So the word has become so negative. So the word deal is very negative, but ultimately there has to be an adjustment or a compromise or a deal, between the establishment and Imran Khan's team.
So who's going to be happy about that deal and who's going to be unhappy?
No, I think this is what the problem is. I think the Pakistani establishment...
Does Pakistan benefit from the deal?
Yes, Pakistan needs a deal. Pakistan desperately needs a deal between Imran Khan and Pakistan's establishment. The real political party in Pakistan is Pakistan's establishment.
But what you're arguing for is a gray zone. right? You're arguing that life is gray and there's a gray zone of acceptability. I think a lot of PTI supporters, especially after what they've gone through, feel life has to be white and black. And if we've gone through all this, then we need it to stand for something. So
No,
a
but true.
deal almost puts that down.
So it's true that many young people and idealist people think that there has to be a black and white, clear-cut victory as a result of the struggle and the suffering which the people have suffered.
And the other side should be defeated, and it should be known that they've been defeated. What you're saying is give respect to all sides and we all emerge out of this.
There is another very complex idea which I want to introduce here, which is not easy to understand. It is not Imran Khan who has been defeated. When you look at all the enemies and critics and people from the establishment side and PML and PPP side and many people across India, when you look at the comment, they think as if somehow it is the politics of the Imran Khan that has been done to death and defeated. In reality, the Pakistani establishment, unfortunately, has suffered a huge defeat. Whatever they believed after 9/11, when the world was changing, they failed to make the necessary adjustments. Till General Bajwa comes in and realizes this thing, that it was not possible for him and his establishment, or maybe whatever his ideas were, cannot continue with the old thinking. When you look, for instance, there was a news story which has probably been leaked to the British publication, The Guardian, which refers to almost to 20, assassinations that have taken place in the Pakistani soil since 2020 of the former Sikh dissidents or activists and the Kashmiri cause activist on the Pakistani soil. Whenever this kind of assassinations take place without any response from the other side, because there's no international law to govern that. The other side can also, go and do counter strikes. The other side hasn't done the counter strike. That means there is some sort of tacit approval to the Indian side for carrying out these political assassinations of the former assets of the Pakistani establishment who were given protection in Pakistan, but now someone has allowed these to be taken out. There is a very interesting English film of the early 1990s, Clear and Present Danger, in which Harrison Ford is the deputy director of the CIA, and the CIA injects, its own commandos against the Colombian drug cartel within the Colombian soil. And then the Colombian drug cartel finds this out and sends a message to the American president, who had authorized that, without the permission from the Congress, to send his soldiers in a foreign soil. And the American president is blackmailed, and then the CIA hands over the list and the locations of the American soldiers to the Colombian drug cartel, and they started, killing them one by one. And then Harrison Ford discovers this, he's a CIA deputy director and challenges the president. So this is like almost 30 years old movie. Right. So what is happening in Pakistan clearly shows that Pakistani establishment has accommodated. And as part of some sort of tacit understanding, these assets are being decimated. Now ask the difficult and complex question that whose ideas have been defeated? None of the ideas or the philosophy. Imran Khan, is he taking the hard position on Kashmir, not making the necessary adjustments in South Asia? These were all not Imran Khan's personal problems. These were the positions, the strategic positions which the Pakistan's previous establishment of General Kayani, General Musharraf, General Kayani, and Raheel Sharif had. And those positions have got a reversal now, but it's very difficult to explain. I keep on trying to explain this thing, but some people explain, some people do not explain. So it is in the best interest of Pakistan that a political deal takes place between Imran Khan and the Pakistani establishment. It is good for them and good for Pakistan. What is redundant and lost its value is PMLN of Nawaz Sharif. That has no grassroots value. There was a time when Mian Nawaz Sharif was the most popular Pakistani politician. Till the 2008 elections and even in 2013 election, he was the most popular political force in Pakistan, but not anymore. He's totally decimated by the
PMLN is a spent force. The only force on ground now, to some extent, left is the PPP.
Yes, the three principal political forces in Pakistan. The biggest political force is Pakistan establishment, the second is PTI, and third is the PPP. And they need an accommodation, and ultimately, I think there is no other way. There's no option for them. They will have to enter into a deal.
We thank you so much for sharing your thoughts again today.
And provocative as well.